Alrighty, welcome back. First off, a humbling moment. I started this video a moment ago, this next step we're going to take, and I wrote the line, and I was like, alright, cool, let's go check it out, and I had errors left and right, and the issue was that I did not close the tags on the element that I had made. Go figure. So, anyways, hopefully this does not happen to you. But our next step, what we want to do, we want to add some functionality to our buttons. We want to be able to do some stuff, and for everything to be groovy. So we're going to end up finding ways of passing this in to our state, and then displaying it there. We're going to end up, as well as the props, we're going to end up writing some functions so that our buttons do some things. We call them, and that'll be kind of our focus here. So we're going to head over to our data loop, and we're going to end up writing an input here. Type equals checkbox, and then checked is going to be to-do dot is complete, and this is the one you need to close. You need to close the tag, and then it will be happy. So now we head over to our website. Now we have this button, and currently this is set to false, and you can't overwrite that, right? And it's also mad about other things, which obviously we'll get to shortly. But if we were to go back to our app and change this to true, right? We head over here. Now when we load the page, it is set to true. So that's nice. We like that, right? But we got to find ways of actually handling that information. Okay. What if I want to clear the items? What if I want to automate the addition of new items? We're going to keep on working. So we're going to add an on-click event to our add to do button, right? Which is again part of what it's complaining about here. Is an on change, and we'll have an on click. Thing 2. So we should have, let me see, what do we set it to? Okay, so for our add item, we're going to add an on-click event. On-click equals, and we're going to write a function called add to do, which does not presently exist, so it will be furious, understandably, right? So we're going to actually end up doing this here. Because these functions that we're doing are just going to be handled inside of this component, right? We're not sending them anywhere else. We can actually write other functions in here just to handle data pieces inside of this component, right? I'm not going to be writing functions here necessarily to handle stuff out there. I would have to end up using state and props to do that kind of thing. But for right here, go away. For here right now, that's totally fine. Anyways, so our add to do, and again in this case this would be like a higher order function. We have other functions that are being called inside of it. So we're going to have an event, which is a default thing that we end up passing into functions that are like on click, and we're going to say const task name equals add ref dot current dot value. Zoinks, what's going on here? Well, it's mad because we actually don't have add ref in here either. So we're going to use another hook called add ref, and what add ref lets us do is actually modify and target different HTML elements from down here. And so in this case, this function that we're doing here, it will add the to do to our to dos, but what it's also going to do is it's going to end up clearing our input out. And so that'll be nice. So we got that. And so if task name, right? So if there is a current value set to our add ref, then we will console.log our task name, and we're going to add ref dot current. We're going to actually end up clearing out the current value, right? Which is great. Otherwise, if there's nothing in there, we're going to return null. Okay, and again, this function happens. It's going to take this on-click is eventually going to take from our input, and we'll see how we do that in a second too. But what's happening here is we're setting up a function that says, hey, if there is anything in this input, right, then go ahead and log it, and we're going to handle that later in a bit. Okay, and then reset it to null so that it ends up being blank. And if there's nothing there, then don't do anything, right? We don't actually want our function to return anything unless our data, unless there's actually something in the, it's obviously screaming angry right now, but if this input has stuff in it, then we want to pass that on. If there's nothing in there, we don't want to do anything, because otherwise, if we keep adding without anything in there, we'll end up with a huge to-do list with absolutely no content. Not cool. So we do need to change our useRef here for a moment. We're going to go back up to this level of our const in case we were to theoretically want to use the add ref somewhere else. We're just going to do const add ref equals useRef, right? And actually this needs to be the function. And now that should be okay, right? So now I can do this and nothing will happen. Great. It's because currently we're not having any current value or anything handled in there. Yeah, we still got some other stuff going on because we have not yet finished. So it is grouchy, understandably. Right. So now, instead of console logging our task name, because we haven't actually tied all this stuff together yet. Give me a second. There we go. All right. Yeah. So we set this up here, but we have not actually set the ref to anything. We have not actually utilized this useRef function. So we're going to actually use this on our input here. So we're going to have add ref. Oops, no. I just want ref equals add ref. There we go. Okay. So compiled, it's happy. We still haven't set our to-dos yet. We're still just using this analog, but otherwise the rest of our app is happy and good to go. So we're going to come over here and refresh. And now, if I write, put on pants, and I add that item, we see that it actually gets logged to the console, which is good. That means that actually now we're actually able to use that data because now we know that task name is actually set to something, and that's a value we can actually use. So we're going to go on and we're going to actually modify the rest of this function a little bit. We're going to actually use those set to-dos. So if task name, instead of just console logging, because that's cool but kind of boring, it's just good for testing, set to-dos, we're going to take old to-dos, which doesn't exist yet, but that's because we're using this as an anonymous function. And we're going to return ... old to-dos, and then we're going to have ID1, name, task name, complete, false. All right. What I don't know what just happened here. Stop. Jeez Louise. So what I don't know what just happened here. These things here are basically going to parse through all of the state that already exists, right? Because again, what we're doing is when we're changing our state, we're not actually changing the data. We're making a new copy of it and using that, a modified version of the copy instead, right? So you have your first one is like this, and then your second one is copied, and then you change something else about it and add to it. And so what this does is actually go through all of the previous copy, right? All of our old to-dos, the stuff that we're putting in. And we're going to take that, which again will all be all the stuff that's inside of state, all of our old to-dos. We'll take all that stuff and add this task name, right? So we'll add a new one like that. That should work out. And then we're going to keep the rest of this, and that'll be groovy. So let's go ahead. Compile successfully, right? Everything's happy. This should be great, right? This will be delightful. All right, let's refresh the page. Good to go. Yep, it's mad. We'll get there to a second. But I can say put on pants, and I should be able to add an item here. And now we have that. And this one actually is able to. This should be is complete. There we go. Is complete. Let me fix that on here too. Great. I was going to say, it seems a little bit strange to me that just happened. All right. Put on pants. There we go. And I should not be able to change it because what's really happened is I have given it this attribute, which we will eventually have to write a function to handle that when we click on that checkbox, that will flip back and forth. But we're going to default it to false. Obviously, we want it to default to it not being done yet. And that's all groovy, right? So I go back here, refresh the page one more time. Right, put on, I will remind everybody, drink more water, right? And now it displays, which is very cool. But you'll notice that we've got the deep red fury of an unhappy console. right? And that's because right now they have the same ID, right? That's ultimately what the problem is, right? And our checked prop does not have an on-change handler, which means that this is read-only. Like, we can't actually do anything with it. And React is like, that's not a very cool application. I mean, you could theoretically do that if you really wanted to, but they really want you to tell it specifically that you don't want it to change, right? Either on-change or read-only. Okay, so that's all kind of what's going on here. And again, right now our ID is okay, but if I were to add multiple, I'm guessing that if I were to add, put on pants, we're probably going to get even more. Yep, encounter 2 children with the same key. There we go. So that was what I was talking about, right? Non-unique keys. So right now this is 0 because we defaulted that in here, right? There's that ID 0, and here's ID 1. But if you go back here, now we're going to have 0, 1, and 1 again, and it's just going to keep going, right? I can do another one of these things, and it's going to be, multiple times it's going to run the same thing, right? It's got, hey, I got 2 children with the same key, and it obviously doesn't like that. So refresh it, and now it's only mad about the one thing, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to handle this this ID problem first, and then we're going to handle our checks, right? So we're going to use Control C and kill that. So now when I refresh this, it should be dead. Won't do anything. Very nice. That's what we, not the ultimate goal, but it works for right now. And we're going to install npm UUID. And so this is, again, npm install. I is short for install. And what should happen here, I had some finickiness with it. So I highly recommend, if this doesn't work for you right the first time, go ahead and experiment with it a bit and go to UUID's npm install page. That link is, again, that's inside the Notion document, so you should be able to access that pretty easily. But the dealio here is, Brandon, what is a UUID? Well, we actually use this very similar to what we used in Flask, right? Where we're setting up a universally unique identification, and we should be able to use this to generate unique ID numbers so that each of our IDs here is distinct and that the keys are different each time, right? We will need to import this. Now that we have it installed in our node modules, we have to actually pull that package into this specific file. So we're going to do v4 as UUID v4, and we're going to do that from /UUID. And this should work. I had some issues with it earlier. Again, it was a little finicky about what it was that the documentation wanted me to do versus what actually worked, but you should be able to figure it out. And right now it's mad. It's like, hey, you didn't tell me what to do with this. You didn't use it. So we're going to actually use it right here, UUID v4, and that will be our function. And now I should be able to do the run start, and it should be all happy for now. It's still gonna be mad about something else. Oh, yep, sure enough, it's still grouchy. I'm gonna pause this and figure out how to debug this problem myself for a moment. I'll be back. All right, my bad. I just didn't follow my own directions. That was my fault. You don't need to have the / here. That's what your deal is. So you're just gonna actually import the thing itself, just like React. I had it written as if I was importing it from a component. Obviously, it's not a component. I did not write UUID. It's in the node module, so you don't need to have the path for that. So that should be good now. Over here, refresh, and now we're groovy. I can just add some stuff, right? And now that's fine. We still have the issue with the checked prop, which is where we're heading next. But we now have unique IDs for each one of these things, and no problems there. So that's groovy. I'm going to pause this again so that it's not blinking red at me all the time. But that'll work. And then, yeah, so you got that there. That's all good. And I'm going to cut the video here. A good 15 minutes, nice little break. So I'll see you in the next video for getting this is complete and the checkbox functionality straightened out, and it should be pretty sweet. See you there.